This is Center Stage, putting your firm in the spotlight by highlighting business owners and other industry experts to help take your firm to the next level. Hey everyone, and welcome to Center Stage. I am your host, John Henson, and this week we are kind of adding on to a topic that we did a few months ago with Paula Black, just talking about publishing a book for your firm. If you want to learn more about just the importance of publishing a book, why you should absolutely do it, and all of that, go check out episode number 32. But this week we are taking it a step further, just kind of talking about how you can get the most mileage out of your book once you have it published. And to do that, I am joined by Michael DeLon from Paperback Expert. Michael, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome, John. Great to be here, man.
Awesome. So yeah, before we jump in, why are we talking to you this week? Why are you the expert on book publishing?
Well, we've been doing it for about a decade, John, and a book changed my life. Oh, I don't know, 9 years ago when I escaped prison, and it wasn't a literal prison, John. It was an emotional prison. I was in a job I hated. And I got out of that job, started a marketing consulting firm, but I was having trouble getting clients because nobody believed I could help them because I'd been in a family ministry for a decade. And I went back to my church one day and prayed and said, God, how can I help John? Because I know I can. And he kind of spoke to my heart. He says, why don't you take all your strategies, put them in a book? And so I did. I published my book on marketing back in 2013. Well, then, John, I'd call you. I'd set an appointment. I'd mail a copy of my book to you. I'd walk into your office a week later and you'd read my book. I saw it on your desk. It was dog-eared, highlighted, underlined. And when I walked into that meeting, John, you'd say, now, Michael, in your book, you said, how do you help me do that? And you hire me. And I started gaining clients. And I thought, man, this is really a neat marketing strategy. Why don't more business owners do it? Well, you've written a couple books. Do you know what the challenge it is, right? And so we created a process to help attorneys and business owners create a book without the hassle of writing it, because we understand how a book positions you in the mind of your audience as different, as an authority figure, as credible, and it allows you to tell your story to gain clients and get referrals. So we've been doing it for a decade in a lot of industries, especially with legal. And so I just want to help more people take their story and get it into a form that they've really wanted to do in a long time. Most people have always wanted to create a book. They just don't want to go through the hassle of writing it out. So we've got that handled. I don't know if that answered that question or not, but
yeah, absolutely. And it leads me into kind of my first question. I obviously, we had the episode in the past, talking about writing a book, but I wanted to kind of start there just to kind of give some context for this episode, because I think, to your point, a lot of people may think that they have to spend months and months writing some 300-page novel, and that's basically the only way you can publish a book. But there are other ways of doing it. What are some of those other alternatives to getting a book published? And does it have to be 300 some pages?
Yeah, great questions, both of them. Number one, no, don't do 300 pages. If you're writing a business book, please don't. Okay. So I run a book publishing company, John. Okay. For business owners, for attorneys. And I'll tell all my prospects, never write a book. And what I mean by that is don't sit down in front of your computer and type it out. What you want to do is you want to speak to write your book. So open up a Word document, create a bullet pointed outline, and then use the dictate function in Word and speak your book. You can talk about what you do all day long. Get the words out of your head onto print, right? Yeah. And then you can go back if you love to write and you can craft it, or I would say hire somebody who's really good at that. Because that's not where an attorney's making their money. They're making their money meeting with clients, solving problems. Get your content out of your head, out of your heart, get it on paper, hire somebody else to do it. So never write a book. Go out and speak it into a variety of softwares, right? Microsoft Word's a great one for it. So number one, that's probably the fastest way. If you're not comfortable with that, have a friend help you and just record it. Just hit record on your phone or whatever. Have a friend ask you a bunch of questions, the questions that your prospects are asking you. Okay. And as far as the length, our books, we've been doing this for a decade. Our books are up to 150 pages. Okay. What I don't want when you publish a book, John, for a lead generation book or something of that nature for use in marketing, you want to avoid the two sides of that pendulum. You don't want to produce a brochure that's a 30-page book. That's not a book. and you don't want to produce a tome, a 300-page something, because you hand that to somebody, they're going to go, I'll read that later. Well, you just defeated yourself. You want a book, 120, 150 pages that has enough thickness that somebody gets in like, oh, that's a nice book. They open it up. It's formatted nicely. It's inviting. They go, you know what? I could read that in a couple hours. Bingo. Because your book is not there to convince them to hire you. Your book is there to get them to trust you, to like you, and say, I really need a conversation. I've got a couple questions here. That is the purpose of your book in terms of marketing. That makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It's that, we talk about, especially in terms of, branding and marketing, it's about building that authority, building that credibility. And that, a book, it's still kind of quote unquote old fashioned because it's not digital, even though you could create a digital ebook, you can have a digital version of it, but there's still something about holding that physical copy. And it's got your name on it. Maybe you've got your face on the cover, whatever you do, that really does elevate your credibility and really helps position you ahead of some of your competitors who may not do that.
It does. And hopefully as you create your book, you're telling your story. Okay. Yes. As we work with clients, we always want to get your story because everybody has one. What I find is, especially attorneys, they don't use their story in their marketing. Okay. So we worked with a client, an attorney down in Florida, big competitive market. His two big competitors were spending like, $1 million a month in advertising. Yeah. I mean, they're just big. He's like, I can't compete against that. We got his story. He went to college for a baseball scholarship. He was heading towards the major leagues, threw his arm out, had to have surgery, rehabilitation, killed his baseball career. Right. He changed majors, became an attorney. Now he's a personal injury attorney. And he helps people who, through no fault of their own, have found themselves in a situation where they're going through rehab and everything, right? Something he's lived. So we took that story, we created his brand in his book around when life throws you a curveball. And it ties in with his baseball story and how he has gone through exactly what his clientele is going through. It bonds them with him. So number one, it connects. But number two, as he's on TV in the morning, or on radio, or on websites, or on Facebook, guess what he's leading with? Not that he's just solved, a $400 million case, but he's saying, I've been where you are. Read my book, listen to my story. I help you navigate this pathway that you're on because I've been there before. That bonds them, builds credibility, gains them. That's how he competes against these monstrous $1 million a month people. He doesn't have it. Yeah. So it's telling your story and separating yourself in the mind of your audience. You can do that by telling your story. That's where I see a lot of people not winning because they're doing what everybody else is doing instead of telling their own story.
Right. Yeah. And I was on your show actually a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. And we talked about this, we talked about Donald Miller's building a story brand and how that, that sort of mindset switch, to where you're focusing on the story and focusing on you being a guide versus you being the hero of your own story. Like no one cares about your story. They think that their story and their situation is the most important thing going on right now. And they need to know that you're the person that can help them overcome the obstacle. And that's what I think a lot of attorneys, especially, make the mistake of doing is it's all like, hey, look at me. Look at all of this money that I've won for these other people. When it's like, if I'm coming to you, it's like, I don't care what you've done for other people. I need to know that you understand my situation.
Yes, exactly. And you're going to relate to me, and they'll probably take offense, but I see some billboards for attorneys, right? I'm the guy, I'm going to go after, I'm the bulldog. And I'm like, I don't think I like you already. I need somebody in that mid. I need somebody who can comfort me and help me and get the job done. So I get why they do that, but I want to know who you are. If we sat down and had a conversation, John, at a coffee shop, I'd be saying, tell me something about you, John. I want to build common ground. That's where your personal story. I always ask the attorney, why are you an attorney? Right. You're smart enough. You could be doing a dozen other things in life. Why an attorney? And what I find, John, is most of them have a situation somewhere in their past with their mom or their cousin who just got a raw deal. Mm-hmm. And they've come to the plate. They said, I'm here because I'm passionate that doesn't happen to other people. Yeah. And I love that because I want to tell that story and say, I'm here to help you with your story. I want to know your story. I want to help you, guide you, but I've been there. I understand. That brings the heart to the table, and we all make decisions emotionally first. Then we find the logic to back up why I want to choose a certain attorney, right?
Right. Well, but now on the other side of that coin, what if, and have you ever run into an attorney who's like, I don't really have a story. Like, how do I find, how do I create a story when I don't know what my own story is?
Yep. All the time. All the time. And so we've got a brand strategy questionnaire. We have 8 questions that we could make available to your listeners as well. That they're background questions, they're hobby questions. Have somebody take you out to coffee and just talk about your background. How did you grow up? How many kids were there? What were your hobbies? What are your hobbies now? Where did you go to college? Why do you do what you do? What's the pathway? And when you ask questions like that, what happens is you start seeing these same themes start popping up. And you go, oh, really? There's a theme of your life and what brought you here. Okay. And I had an attorney and he's in Hawaii. Verbatim, I don't have a story. I'm the most boring guy you ever know. Really, talk to me. He grew up in Hawaii. He came to the States for college. Then he went back to Hawaii, and that's where he practices. I said, really? Why'd you come to the States for college? And he tells me this wonderful story. And I'm like, have you ever told that to anybody? No. I'm like, we're going to tell that because it was a neat story and what happened in his life here. And why did he go back to the islands? There's a story there. That story compels everybody because it's him. It's unique. So everybody has a story. They just don't know how to get out. We created 8 questions, but you can do it by taking your friend out to coffee and saying, just have them ask you about your background and look for themes, consistencies. Everybody has them.
Awesome. So kind of transition now at this point. Okay. Let's say we got our book published. We have it. We've got copies of it. How can we use that in our marketing and the rest of our business development?
Absolutely. Yeah. In about 1,000 different ways. We're going to camp on like 2 or 3. Number one, you mentioned earlier, you could have an electronic version. I always recommend you have a physical print version. We do paperback and an electronic version. Okay. So you put your book on your website, front and center. I'm the author of, right? Get a free copy of my book. I want your book. You should have your book everywhere, right? You want people to read your book. You want to become the source, the guy who wrote the book on. Have it on your website as lead generation. They opt in with their email address. The next page comes up and says, hey, thanks for downloading a copy of my book. It'll be in your inbox in about 5 minutes. If you'd like, I'll mail you a free copy. That way you can dog ear and highlight and not just tell me where to send it. I'll put it in the mail today. You can have it. Right. So now, and we found about 40% of the people who get the electronic version will opt in to get the free version, the physical version. Well, guess what, John? I just captured their name, their address, right? Their phone number.
Yep.
I get all of that. So now I can do other marketing because I want to take marketing from online, offline as well. I want to do both. And I know you guys are big on that. So I want to be able to do both. And I mail them a copy of my book, but you make that mailing an experience, which means I don't put it in a brown envelope. I put it in like a big purple bubble envelope or something. And I write it to them. So that's how you attract. Okay. You want them to read the book before they come in and meet with you, because they're going to have specific questions. Plus, they're going to have bonded with you. That's one room. Another one, referrals. Everybody loves referrals, right? How do you get referrals? They're awkward. Would you take my business card? Would you take my brochure, John, and give it to people? That's. How about if we say, after I settled your case, or maybe during the process when I'm working with you and you love me, John, would you do me a favor? Yeah, because you're happy with me, right?
Right.
John, I don't know if you know this, but most of our clients don't come from all the advertising you see us do. They come from our happy clients that we serve. Would you do me a favor? Would you take 3 copies of my book? And when you're talking to your friends in the next week or 2 about how we're serving you and would you just hand them a copy of my book and say, well, this is the guy we trust, and give them a copy? Would you do that for me, John? I'd be happy to, because now it's really cool for them. They're talking about their story anyway. Now you've given them a script to use. And they get to say, well, I chose the attorney who wrote the book on it, right? I mean, so that's how you get referrals.
Right.
Those are 2 strategies. We've got over a dozen strategies that we teach, but it's looking at your business holistically. How do you use your book to attract your ideal audience? How are you using your book through that nurturing sequence? And how are you using it to retain clients and get referrals? Your book can work in all 3 of those stages of your business. And it's an asset that once you have it, it stays around for like the rest of your career, because a book has, we like to say a book has shelf life.
Right.
It's going to be around. And in our culture, and this is why, John, this is why I like physical. It's sacrilegious in our culture to throw a book away. We
Right.
move them from house to house and office to office. When you put this in somebody's hand, you're going to become part of their household. You're going to become a household name. That's what we're looking for in marketing. So,
yeah. And to kind of back up a little bit, you mentioned the point about putting your book on your website. I mean, I think, one of the things that we totally recommend, whether you have a book or not, have some sort of, it's called a lead magnet,
Yes.
some sort of thing on your website that you can give to people in exchange for at least their email address, if not any more contact information than that.
Yeah.
And so like, even if it's just like a white paper or like a mini ebook, just like a 2 or 3 pages of just free information in exchange for contact information is a huge, huge, huge tool that you can use on your website.
It is. Yeah. I tell business every week, your number one asset in your business is your list, your database, right? And what I find, and I'm sure you find this too, on a website, you go to an attorney's website, it doesn't matter. The call to action typically is too big. It's call me for an appointment today. I'm
Right.
not ready for that yet. I
Right.
need a simple next step, hence the book or a report, or here's you just got in an accident. Download my roadmap that explains the next 7 steps that you're going to go through and what you should and shouldn't do. It's a free 2-page document. Download it now. Give me your email, boom. Now they're on your list. Now you can go through an entire nurture sequence to do 1,000 different things to engage with them. But make the next step a simple, small, easy step, because I'm probably not ready to pick up the phone and talk with you.
Right. Yeah. And in most situations, I mean, obviously there are going to be exceptions, but like in most situations, people are doing research. Like in most situations do not call for a lawyer on standby within 30 minutes, unless you've just been arrested and you need a lawyer immediately. Other than that, I think other than that, people are doing some research ahead of time. They're planning on a divorce, they're planning on bankruptcy. Maybe they got a letter from the IRS and they're trying to figure out the best route to take with that. Whatever the case is, it's a long process. People are doing their research. And so to your point, those big calls to action, people aren't ready for that yet. So what can you do to nurture them along, to warm them up along that funnel? To use a traditional marketing term there, and a book, a good lead magnet is a great way to do that.
Well,
yeah.
Well, let's go back, because you mentioned funnel there, and I know you guys are big proponents of your content loop. I was going to say circle on my your content loop. Talk about a book. You create a book, you put it there. Now you've got content to go to your blog, to go 2 or 3 days later to your Facebook, to create a podcast around that same content. In our program, John, we create the book, then we create a podcast for our clients, and we interview them on every chapter of their book. And then you can take that out to the world in video and audio, but you can also now have LinkedIn profiles and Facebook posts and blog posts, and you multiply that content, which I know you guys are great at, but a book is awesome for that, because dude, I published my book in 2013, John. Yeah. I still use it today to gain clients and get referrals and grow my revenue. My message hasn't changed.
Right.
So use it over and over.
Yeah. And we call that evergreen content.
Totally.
And so, and one of the things, and maybe you've gotten this, pushback before, where it's like, well, my laws are always changing. What if, my book's going to be irrelevant in a year? How do you get around that?
Yeah, not at all, because your book's not about the laws and the statutes. Your law's about that consumer and what they're dealing with. They don't care if the laws change. They want to know, here's the situation I'm in. Can you get me out of it or through it?
Yeah.
They are looking for they're in an emotional situation. They're looking for an emotional solution.
Right.
I need to trust you, Mr. Attorney. I trust that you understand all the laws and all the changes. Right? I don't want to know the law. I want to know that you know the law and you're going to care for me and get me through this. That's how you make your book at a high level
Yeah.
telling stories of people you've helped through a variety of situations so that your reader is going to bond and go, oh, I'm just like Susie there. He can help me.
Right.
Okay, this is good. And then John, they're ready to call you or schedule a 30-minute Zoom with you and
Right.
then bond with you. That all that meeting is, do I like you? I mean, you're an
Right.
attorney.
Right.
They know you can do the job. The question is, do I like you?
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. And that's one of the push and pull sorts of things that we work with our attorneys, because they want to take deep dives and get into the weeds
Yeah.
in all of this. Well, this is what happens in this situation, but then this is what this statute does in this situation. It's like people don't like, they're only going to dig so deep on that.
Don't care.
Right. Like the law is very complex. Most people just do not have the mental capacity with everything else going on in their lives. They can only absorb so much of that, and they're going to eventually just gloss over and they're going to be out. But to your point, if it's all structured as a story and you're making that emotional connection, they're going to be more engaged in that.
Absolutely. Going back to Donald Miller, one of his phrases that I use a lot is, when you confuse, you lose.
Yep.
Okay? Your audience doesn't care about all the nitty gritty at that moment. There may be a time in a personal consultation when they're asking, dude, go as deep as they want you to go.
Yeah.
Don't go as deep as you want to go, because you're going to confuse people and they're going to say, okay, thank you very much.
Right.
Guess what? You just lost.
Yeah.
So go as deep as your client wants to do. But on a book, it's high level, it's structured. I can help you go from where you are now to where you want to be. Here are 8 chapters, right, of how we've done that. We've helped other people. We can help you. The next step is not to come into my office. The next step is a 15-minute Zoom call where we get to know each other to see if we're the right firm for you.
Yep.
Here's where you book that. After that call, if it's a good fit, then you'll come into our office for a 45-minute private consultation. After that, here's what, right? You're laying it out. Nobody does this. If you would do that simple thing, you're going to get more clients, because you've clarified this pathway that I've never been in this situation before, John. I'm walking into a dark room. Please guide me. Going back to Donald Miller, right? Guide me. It's really simple. Keep it high level. Be their guide. Solve their emotional problems. They know you've got the ability to fix their problem. They're looking for somebody they can trust and believe in.
Right. Exactly.
Exactly.
And so I know you briefly mentioned it a few minutes ago, but I wanted to get you to expand on what exactly is a signature message.
Yeah, thank you. A signature message to me is that unique message that's unique to you and or perhaps your firm, but usually it's you, the attorney, that separates you in the mind of your audience. So my attorney in Florida, right? When life throws you a curveball, his competitors can't have that message because they don't have the story, right? We've all heard of what Simon Sinek, right? The big guru, right? What's his signature message? Start with why. That's what put him on the map. That's what separates him from everybody else. And from there, he's doing all kinds of stuff. Every attorney has a signature message that they need to discover. And I use that word on purpose, John. Discover. We do not create signature messages. We discover them from your unique story. And then we help you use that in all of your marketing, not just your book, because your book ties into your overall brand, your overall message. Everybody has a signature message. Most attorneys haven't discovered it yet. That's what we help them do.
Yeah. Awesome. And then kind of one of the last questions that I have is, obviously, attorneys especially, they're super focused on ROI. What's the ROI that I get from this book? Obviously, when we talk about metrics, we talk about things that ultimately drive revenue and things that you can directly correlate. So, how can a book help law firms and lawyers, gain clients and grow the revenue?
Yeah, great question. Again, 1,000 different ways, right? So you can, when your prospect walks into your office holding your book and it's they got sticky notes on it. They got questions. One, it's there. When they're downloading off your website, it's, they're after that information. When they are sitting there and they're repeating to you a story or something you said in your book, they've read your book, right?
Yeah.
The other aspect is referrals, not from clients, but centers of influence that you should be cultivating in your community. Your book should be in their office so that when they're making that referral to you, they're not just handing a card, they're handing you, here's John's book. He wrote the book on real estate law or whatever it is, right? You need to read the book and set an appointment with John. They come walking in with your book. It's a very tangible connection many times, but your clients are going to be repeating back to you things they heard in the book. And so you're going to see that return. And again, it goes to that long tail of most attorneys give up on a prospect after about a week or two.
Yeah.
You and I both know, John, most decisions happen 90 days plus. And when you take your content of your book and you're using it in your content loop, you're putting it out over and over and over. What happens is again, it's really weird when this happens, but your prospects tell you the things you've told them in your book. They have forgotten where they heard it.
Exactly.
That's when you know it's working.
Exactly. 100%. So how can people, if they're interested in getting a book published and having you guys help them out, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, thank you. Paperbackexpert.com. That's our website. That is the hub for everything we do. From there, you can learn all about our program. We've got a Facebook community you can join in. You can schedule a call with me. We've got a lot of videos on there, a lot of testimonials. So paperbackexpert.com is the central place for everybody to go. That's your next step, just to research this. And when you're ready, schedule a call and let's have a conversation and see if this is right for you and how we might be able to help you gain some clients, grow your revenue, and enjoy the dream of being an author. It's really kind of cool.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, I think, there's a huge time saving aspect of it, obviously, because you're not spending weeks and months writing. And I mean, like me personally, like just as a side hobby, I've written, I think I'm over 20 books at this point. It's just history related stuff. It's just what I do because I don't have a life outside of that, but that's what I do. But like each project takes 4 to 6 months at a time. And if you're a business owner, you're wearing all these hats, you don't have the time to do that. So that's where, companies like yours come in, where you can have a phone call or a series of phone calls or Zoom meetings or whatever it is. And you just start talking and you just stream of consciousness, get all of your words out, your unique expertise out, and then have these professionals who do this for a living, put it all together.
Yeah. And it's really, I'm glad you mentioned that. We've clocked our process. It takes less than 24 clock hours for our client. It takes us a few months, but it's a guided approach. We don't just say, hey, give me what's on your mind. No, our writers help you structure the outline, right? You've got a lot up there. We have to help structure it and make it a great book. But all we ask for our client, can you show up on a Zoom call and talk with our writer? Because they're going to ask you all the questions. Let them do what they're great at. You have everything in your head and your heart to create this book. And by following our process, it leverages your time. Because again, an attorney doesn't make money writing their book. We get that. We want to get it done. We want to get it published. We want to make it look phenomenal and then show you how to use that book to grow your business. Because honestly, if you're not going to use your book to grow your business, don't do it. I mean, I talk with business owners all day, every day who have a book. They just don't know what to do with it. That's a pretty expensive doorstop. So we want you to use your book to educate your prospects and to grow your business. That's what we love doing, John. So thanks for that.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been really awesome as always. A lot of great insight. Hopefully we were able to inspire some people to get into the book business, so to speak. That's going to do it for us here this week on Center Stage. Continue to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe to us on YouTube, wherever you're consuming the show. And that's it. Michael, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome, John. It's been fun.
Thanks for listening. To learn more, go to spotlightbranding.com/center stage.